Town council meeting is called to order tonight, and at this time, council will come in session. And I'll ask at this time, Councilman Aaron Brown have the invocation and the pledge of allegiance to the flag for us.
Dear Father in heaven, we thank you for this gathering tonight of the citizens, the council members, and other visitors from Somerville who've come to help us make the right decisions for the town of Somerville. We thank you that you've blessed this town, that we have tranquility, we have peace, and we all work together for the good of all. We pray that you'll help our decisions to be the right ones, and the comments that are made will be positive. All these things we ask in your holy name, in the name of your beloved Son, Jesus. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible.
Okay, at this time, we'll have the presentation by the Dorchester senior citizens.
Lee. Good evening, Mayor Waring, Ms. Wallace, and Council. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be here today. What I wanted to do was talk to you about the Dorchester Senior Center. I do know that you all have some copies of some information that was sent to you, and I'm not going to read all of that, but I wanted to give you a brief synopsis of what we have. On the town of Somerville in Dorchester County entered into a lease agreement on April 20th, 2001. And that was for 25 years. And there was an option to renew in the 24th year, and that will be April 20th, 25. And then it would expire on 26. So that's coming up in 2025, that 24th year. Okay. Dorchester County also leases the building to DSI. So we are the subleasee of that building. Base Seller Senior Center is the building that I'm talking about specifically. And we were in a contract with them for 20 years. That agreement was renewed on March 15th of 2022. And we renewed that for 20 more years to go out to August 20th of 2042. So essentially what we are asking as the tenants of that building, because we are the ones that are inhabiting it, we are the ones that care truly about that place, is we would really like for you as town to renew your agreement with the county to match that what we signed for with the county. So you have a copy of the agreement, and you have a letter from myself as the executive director, and you have a copy of that letter from Mr. Ward. And so that's the information you have. And I also put some information together in a PowerPoint that is also in your packet. I wasn't going to share it for everybody here, but I thought it might be interesting for you to have that information so that you have a little bit more information of what that center is doing strictly in this area. And I was going to also let you know that I have some wonderful people here that are here to support what we're doing. I've got a lot of board members here. My board members could raise their hands. Could you please do that? I've got some board members here as well as employees. And I also have some county officials here. And I've got Mr. Herbert here. I've got county officials here who I've been told are full support of this action. So we are asking you to take this under consideration. And I'm open to any questions that you may have. If you have some, I'm here for that now. Questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate your consideration.
Next, we have a presentation by the NAACP for proposed redistricting maps. Mr. Roof.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is John Roof. I am contracted by the NAACP to assist local branches with redistricting throughout South Carolina. I've been doing redistricting work for the NAACP. This is my 4th decade. I go back even further than that, doing redistricting back to the days of paper maps and magic markers and Lotus 1, 2, 3 spreadsheets. And if you don't know what 1, 2, 3 spreadsheets were, then you're a lot younger than me. I also have appeared many times as an expert in voting rights and redistricting in federal court. And I was asked by the Somerville branch of the NAACP to prepare a proposal for y'all. And in doing that, I use the standard guidelines that any map drawer would use in drawing a map for a municipality or county council, school board, or Congress for that matter. And that is to keep the deviation so that the smallest district to the largest district is no more than 10%. That is what the courts have established as a rebuttable presumption of constitutionality. You have to comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act, which prohibits diluting the votes of minority citizens. You also have to comply with traditional districting principles in South Carolina, which include that the districts be reasonably compact, that they be contiguous, that they maintain communities of interest, which includes trying to preserve the core of existing districts. And in preparing this proposal, which is y'all have in front of you, those are the principles that we undertook to protect. There's another one, which is incumbency protection, which some folks means you get to screw your enemies. But the courts interpret as we try not to draw two of you in together in the same district. And to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief, this plan has each of you in your existing district, which also helps to preserve the core of existing districts. You had to have substantial changes in some of the districts simply because the population changes had some of the districts very large, like District 2, and others had to have population to make it up, like District 1 and District 6. And so this plan comes in with a total deviation of 6.6%. Now, most of my 40 years when I've been doing this for the NAACP, I've pointed out how you could draw Black majority districts because, that is a goal in redistricting, is not to dilute the votes of Black voters. You can't do that in Somerville. I think the last time around, you did not achieve a 50% Black voting age population, but you did achieve a majority district in District 1. That simply is impossible anymore. But as if you look at the spreadsheet, the numbers in the spreadsheet, and I don't intend to go one by one through the districts. Those are there for you to look at in detail. We would be here all night if I tried to walk you through the individual districts. And so the Blackest district, it has a non-voting age population of 35.2%. None of the others has, and that was about as strong as could be drawn while meeting the other traditional districting principles of trying to preserve the cores of existing districts, trying to preserve communities of interest, and trying to, meet those criteria. I blush to say that districts in, Somerville are compact because Somerville is not exactly, a thing of beauty and a joy forever, from a pure geometric standpoint. Y'all got lots of arms and legs and good things, but within the constraints of the city y'all or the town y'all have created, the districts that are presented here are pretty compact, actually. They are all contiguous. You have that. There's an existing kind of funny thing with District 2, which is preserved here, but it meets the criteria in South Carolina of contiguity, where at one point, one of the rules of contiguity in South Carolina is if it's contiguous by water, it's contiguous. Well, where we have municipalities that have parts of the municipality that are separated by county land, then part in the county is treated just like water. So everything here meets the criteria. Having worked with the branch and based on my many years of experience, this is a pretty reasonable proposal that drives no particular agenda. And so we commend it to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
If I understand you correctly, you started based on kind of some of those growth in the last census. Your target population, 8,441 per district, right?
Yes,
And when we look above that, like in District 1, you've got the population at 8,082,
right.
and the minus 4.3 is a deviation.
Yes.
Okay. And so there's a deviation in District 2 of 1.7.
Oh, Councilman Brown, I'm sorry, can you turn on your mic, please?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So anyway, that's basically what I was trying to get the gist of. I'm pretty sure that you did the best you could. Because we had gotten out of kilter as far as the amount of population that each council member should be responsible for. So that's the reason for the census. If the population grows, then we've got to adjust. And that's
Right.
basically what we're
To
talking
meet the
about.
one person, one vote standard. If we were drawing congressional districts, when they say one person, one vote, they mean one person. The courts won't let you draw more than a total deviation of plus or minus one. But for any other jurisdictions, it's a total deviation of 10%. Now, some people make that a shorthand of plus or minus 5, but that's not what the standard is. The standard is a total deviation of 10%. Now, if RFA were here speaking to you, they would say, oh, it should be plus or minus 2.5. There is no legal basis for that. I don't think there's any technical basis for making that statement, particularly when you recognize that the federal census it's not that accurate. There's a 3% undercount of Black persons in the census. There's about a 0.8% overcount of white persons. So, if you're trying to get too close, it's an artificial precision that doesn't exist there. And then, of course, you have growth since the census. And one of the things I did was I took the outline of the city as RFA understood it, and added those areas that have been annexed that should appropriately been counted in the town. Now, that gets a little tricky at points because we're drawing with census blocks and y'all do not follow census blocks when you're doing annexations. And some of those annexations are lopped over by census blocks. For example, there's a census block up in Nexton that where you have annexed a piece of Nexton that has practically no population. But the census block has a bunch of people. They're just not in the part you annexed. So I did not include that in it. I have done the best representation of the town of Somerville that I can do using census geography principles we typically use in South Carolina.
Okay. I'd just like to thank you, because last time we took months trying to get that majority and weren't able to do it, so it's nice that it's done.
Well, and I hope you can get a majority for this. Like I say, there's no particular agenda that this map runs. It very much is Bobby Bowers, who some of you know from previous rounds about this, would occasionally threaten jurisdictions with, I'm gonna bring in the demographers now. Well, this is practically the demographers now.
Excuse me, is there a larger map that we can get? I look at it and I'm struggling with knowing certain, and I'm in District 2, by the way, so I'm just struggling to see what left and what.
Yeah, what
didn't.
might help you is there's a blow up of District 2 in there.
I have it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only other thing I can suggest is, because it would be the same thing if I loaded up my computer and we went in. These could be printed on larger pieces of paper. And that might help you. I don't have
Okay,
those, but your clerk is not looking at me like, of course.
I bet. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we want to thank you for your work. Obviously, you've been doing this a very long time. And, we are compelled to do this because of the census every 10 years. And I think what I'm interested in, and a lot of the citizens here, is that we're interested in the Somerville, basically as it is now. We don't want to see Somerville change where we don't have diversity on the council, where we don't have peace and tranquility. We want Somerville to be as nice and beautiful as it's always been and progressive. And the only way to do that is to deal with these issues of making sure that we've got representation. It's interesting that, we've got diversity on the council. We've got one African-American, we've got one female. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's something that we would certainly want to enjoy and to try to keep the council. And the district that I serve, which is District 1, a lot of my friends here on council are very interested in keeping that as representation for the African-American community. So you come close, based on what you had to work with. And I agree with you that the days are gone when you can say we're going to have, at least 51% minority in this district, because the town has grown too much for that. And so in another 10 years, it's going to be even worse, I think. And we may be calling you again, so God bless you.
Thank you. And Ms. Meservey has my contact information if you have. Me. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Ruth. I think it's been about 30 years since we've been in the same room, so it's good to see you.
Yes, we've known one another for a very long time, but it is a long time since we've been in the same room. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's see, presentation by the NWC.
Yep.
We-
Now we're in approval.
so, Approval of the minutes by the previous meetings.
I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes of the town council meeting of January 23, and the standing committee meetings of February the 6th, twenty
I'll second that,
twenty-three.
Mr. Mayor.
Got a motion on the floor that we approve the minutes of the town council meeting and the standing committee meetings, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? Opposed likewise? Did we vote?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, motion carried. Okay,
For
now we're
public
going down-
comment for items on the February 9th agenda, Laura Vanderford.
Good evening. I don't know about you, but I haven't had dinner yet. So I'm hungry. So I wanted to just speak on a couple of items. I'll be quick. And pardon me while I pull my phone up. I'm not going to belabor the point. And the many comments that have been made about the DCCO and the homeless shelter. Because I think they've been previously stated, they've been well spoken. And I want to use my time wisely because I've got 4 minutes and 42 seconds. So, in looking at all that's happened, I'm not a realtor. I don't serve on council. It honestly, as a taxpayer, makes no sense to me as to why we would have a piece of property zoned commercial in a residential area. But it was, it's out of my control. I have no say or anything to do with that. And speaking to numerous people over the past couple of weeks, I've gathered some great information. I can't make a blanket statement, but I think it all comes down to cost and what was affordable. I'm just curious why we couldn't wait, maybe find a better location to house the men's shelter, the women's shelter, as well as the warming and cooling all in one facility. And I just wonder if anyone has considered the taxpayer or the homeowners that are sitting behind me and how this would impact their lives. I bought my home about 5 years ago, and I think I may have to sell because I'm not comfortable. I live alone. I have a dog, but usually when somebody knocks at the door, he stands behind me. So, and everybody, the people that know Bentley, he's a great dog. And then I worry about the safety of the children. I've got neighbors that are raising grandchildren. And looking at the information on the Freedom Act, 911 calls were recorded on Central Avenue. Internet crimes against children, drugs, intoxication, mental health, and mental issues in general. I don't know if my phone will pull this up. I'm going to see if I can share this with you. Okay, I think that's enough. That was a clip that was taking, a friend of mine was ordering an egg roll, walking very close in proximity to another homeless shelter. I'm worried that that's going to happen in my community. That kind of language. And I wonder why we allow paths to cross. I just think this is the disservice that we're housing something like this in a residential area. I understand the screening process. There's been very good points made across that. I work in the healthcare industry. I'm part of a very large screening process. Drug screens, motor vehicle, education, the list goes on and on. And I'm wondering what type of screening process actually takes place. We've not been given that information. And where do you draw the line?
mean, I'm not asking for names, but I would like to know what type of people are down at Central Avenue. What type of people are being housed at other homeless shelters, felons, addicts, etc. In closing, and I have a minute, just a little bit about myself. Being in the healthcare industry, I've called on prisons. I've called on mental health facilities. I've called on psychiatrists. I have sold prescription products. And in going to those facilities, they were never, ever in a residential area. So I'm just curious as why we want to put the community at risk, and that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Lauren Lauder.
I've been a member of the Somerville community for 12 years. I've chosen to live here with my husband and 3 young children. My number one job as a parent is to keep my children safe. I've had people walk through my yard, drop drug paraphernalia, and steal from me just in the last 6 months, all because the neighboring community of Buckshire has refused to maintain their fence. I understand that the DC CEO has clearance to build and we have no grounds to stop it. And I'm not okay with the shelter being built here. That being said, I'm asking for you to only allow the annexation of the property on Miles Jamison with restrictions of a fence being built surrounding the perimeter with required maintenance and the maximum buffer allowed.
Thank you.
Jenny Visiti.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Vicini, and I am the Executive Director of DCCO. And thank you, Mayor Waring and Ms. Wallace and council members. I'm just going to speak briefly, give you an overview of DCCO. I have another, one of our board members is going to speak more to the annexation piece, but I wanted to address, just to refresh your memory, if you all are not familiar with exactly how we operate. DCCO started in 2015, and it was founded in response to the need for Somerville and the county of Dorchester to actually have a response to serve our homeless individuals. And we're a Christian-based organization. Our whole mission is to provide support services, a safe environment, and ultimately an avenue to independence for the individuals that come to us. And those individuals come to us, we refer to them as our guests, voluntarily. These are individuals who make the decision. I want a better way of life. I don't want to couch surf. I don't want to sleep in the woods. I know that I deserve better. I'm a part of this community, and Dorchester County Community Outreach was there for them. Over the years, we've had 80%, over 700 individuals who have moved through our programs and have moved on into permanent housing and are tax-paying citizens in our community. Our programming, we offer professional counseling, financial counseling, spiritual counseling, support groups, job advocacy, and every person that comes doesn't need the same thing. Some may stay only a couple of months. Some may stay 6 months. It's a very much, we're based on a relationship model. That means we meet the person where they're at. All of our men and women that come to us have to be willing and able to work full time. And it is remarkable. We have lots of jobs in Somerville, and it's pretty remarkable how quickly our men and women do get employment. We have a home, both of our houses, one's Hope's House, that's our women's facility. 8 women are served, and our men's facility is Home of Hope, and there are 16 beds in Home of Hope. All of them are home-like environments, and the individuals that come and stay with us have to treat that property as if it's their home. We're very strict. If you've ever seen our properties, I hope that you are as proud of those properties as I am. Our women's shelter opened in 2019 and the men, as I said, in 2015. But in addition to that, we're well known in the community and in Dorchester County and in the Tri-County areas, and we get countless calls, hundreds and hundreds of calls from individuals looking not just for housing, but all kinds of other services, because we're recognized as someone who is responsive. We're a passionate organization, and the people that work within our facilities know about all of the resources in the communities. And so we're very proud that we're able to offer that service as well. I think it's also important to note, I think in this past year, the majority of our operating expenses comes from private donations, from individuals, from churches, from grants that are private foundation grants to fund our operations. Very small amount of our money comes that's funneled through federal dollars or local dollars. And I just want to say, you know, I hope that if there are questions later on, I'm more than happy to answer it. We have heard the concerns of the community. We want to be as transparent as we can be, and I think that we have. And for me personally, I am honored to be a part of DCCO. I've been in this business for a million years, and this organization is one that I'm proud to represent. I'm proud to be a part of, and I know that Somerville has to be proud of what we have brought to the community. That's what I've got to say for now. Thanks.
Joseph Friday.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Joseph Friday. I'm president of Dorchester County Community Outreach, the board of directors. I'm also a longtime resident of Somerville. We're applying for annexation because of our location. While we are properly zoned to build in a county, we have to attempt to annex into the town of Summer to gain access to the CPW, through the sewer through CPW. We believe that annexation provides enhanced medical and emergency services that improves the safety and protection to the citizens and our guests. The burden on the town will be improved by helping keep homeless people off the street and helping them become contributing members to our society. Based on our conversations with the neighborhood, they prefer a privacy fence for safety along the site. If we annex into the town, the setbacks along the property line will be more stringent, 30 feet compared to the county regulations. 30 feet in the town compared to 25 feet in the county. This was confirmed by Jesse Schuler, the town director of planning. We want to honor the neighbor's request for the fence. We believe annexation would be in their best interest, as we would be held to a stricter setback and building codes. We'll meet whatever setbacks we are required. However, we intend to try to exceed the buffers and the setbacks where at all possible. Postponing annexation allows us to build to county ordinances, and they're not as strict. Our intended use for the property is in 3 phases. Phase 1 is reestablish the men's shelter, men's facility on that houses 16 men. The men's facility is currently sitting on a leased property, and the current landowners have a long-term vision that does not include a homeless shelter on that site. Therefore, it's not an option for us. Phase 2 is to build and expand a women's facility from 8 to 16 women. Phase 3 is build a support center to relocate our admin offices and to the new site and add meeting space for current and future programs as addressing guest needs like counseling, education, and support groups. After receiving and reflecting input from our community and local leaders, we have decided to prioritize our proven relationship model with our future support center. Thus, our plans for the warming and cooling shelter on this site will be suspended indefinitely. We'll continue to work with local government officials and other shelter providers to determine the best location for any future warming shelters. We look forward to working with Dorchester County, the town of Somerville, the Somerville community to continue to meet the needs of those experiencing homelessness. Thank you very much.
Peggy Ridgway.
Thank you very much. I can't speak to any of the legal, any of the ordinances or anything like that. I just want to address the fear that some of these people are feeling as far as their safety is concerned. Members, myself and members of my church have been dealing with Home of Hope and Hope's House for the last few years. We've been taking food there on Tuesdays for years. I myself personally have been in there behind their doors by myself. I have delivered food and have never had anything other than a gracious, warm, and loving reception from everybody who is a resident or as a guest, as they are saying, from those facilities. I have never felt afraid, never been nervous. The quote there, "But by the grace of God go I," could happen to any one of us at any time. And I would hope that the people who are behind me would feel the same way if something were to catastrophically happen to them, that they found themselves homeless, that there was a facility such as this in the Somerville area to take care of me if I needed it. These people have to find jobs. They're not wandering the streets aimlessly. That's one of the prerequisites. They have to be looking for work. And that is what they want to do. I was just told that there was a gentleman who has been working for a long time there now, who has found a residence. He has been able to save enough money and he is out. He's got an apartment, he's got a job. And this is what our hope is for them. This is what this facility provides. It is a warm and loving facility. And like I say, I have never, ever felt in jeopardy in any way, shape, or form. And I know people will say, well, why don't you put it in your neighborhood? If it was going in my neighborhood, I would support it. I have no fear whatsoever of this facility. I would live right next to it if I had to. Thank you.
I have 4 names that did not put down what topic they were talking on. If Chris Vieira, Linda Wetzel, Lori Kolzinski, and Justin Lewis, are any of y'all speaking on an agenda item?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name's Lori Kolchinsky. Obviously, I wasn't born and raised in the South, but this has been my home since 2009. The biggest objection to this being built, and there's nothing we can do to change it, is the location. That's the first thing with any kind of selling real estate. Location, location, location. There was a study done as far as the count of cars on Miles Jameson Road, and you cannot compare it to where it's located on Central Avenue. There was 16,200 cars on Miles Jameson Road compared to 12,500 on Central Avenue at the same time. There are absolutely no sidewalks, no street lights. People that do walk their children and stand there at the bus stops have flashlights. There is nothing there. They are afraid for their children's lives. I'm afraid that I will hit somebody on Miles Jameson Road and kill them because of this shelter there. And that's a real possibility, and it scares the life out of me because I live in Somerville Place. I had asked Mr. Friday if anybody from there, DCCO, walked Miles Jamison. No one has. No one in their right mind will. We can be wonderful neighbors. It's not objection to the homeless people inside of it or the work that they do. It's the location. Please, I hope they put street lights and sidewalks for their guests to walk through there. There's ditches or nothing, but somebody's yard to walk through. The location, again, it's absolutely horrible. We ask that the boundaries be the largest as possible from Somerville Place properties to the back of their properties, because I'll be looking out my front door and see the back of their building from where I live right now. And I want it to look nice. We're very proud people in our neighborhood, yard of the month, the whole shebang. We hope they're that kind of a neighbor also. But the big thing is the danger. They have a 80% success rate, that there's 20% that aren't. I know about alcoholics and drug addicts. My ex-husband wound up homeless. God love him. What were they going to do if they're kicked out of these buildings? Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? And if they're stoned or whatever, they're going to knock on people's doors. We're the closest thing to them. It's all residential. Or God forbid they walk on Miles Jamison in the dark. Again, a car can hit them. They'll fall in the ditches. Their lives are in danger by having those buildings there. But I hope the DCCO will take all people. They continue to talk about being a Christian organization. That's fine. But I certainly hope that they would take Jewish people, that they will take Muslim people, that they will take anybody of any race, color, and creed. I understand their purpose, but they have taken federal tax dollars. And I would hope that that comes from any race, color, and creed. I hope they allow those people to be in there, and that you just don't have to be a Christian to be allowed in those buildings. I understand this is the South. I am a Christian. It does not work in a government situation. It must be separated. Church and state, my personal feeling and interaction. If I was Jewish, I would hope they would let me in their shelter. God forbid I be homeless. I wish something could have been done before they purchased the property, but I hope we can be good neighbors since we can't change that. Our neighborhood is very willing. We hope that they are, but I hope they put the safety of their guests before anything. I don't want to kill anybody. Thank you for letting me speak.
Was there another person with the agenda item?
Good evening. My name is Chris here. I live in the Lakes of Somerville. My concern is for the safety of the community at large, as well as actually for the folks who would be residents of the homeless shelter. I spent the first 55 years of my life in the San Francisco Bay Area, where they have an outrageously high homeless population, and there's a high rate of crime among the homeless population there. I was looking at a survey conducted by the Prison Policy Incentive. Is that right? Let me look at my notes here. The Prison Policy Initiative that stated that people who have been imprisoned twice, 2 or more times, are 13 times more likely to be among the homeless population than the than people in the general population are. At a meeting we had here a couple of weeks ago, the petitioner mentioned that the residents at the center are vetted for, their background is vetted for sexual crimes. But he mentioned nothing about violent crimes. LA Police Department reported that since 2018, 60% of the crime committed by the homeless are violent crimes. When they mentioned the vetting, they mentioned nothing about crimes like strong arm robbery or assault. When they mentioned the vetting, they mentioned nothing about property crimes, theft, burglary, shoplifting, robbery. These are all concerns about a facility that is going to be built among literally hundreds of residences, private residences, and people have concerns about their property, about their safety, and they're very legitimate concerns. Approving this, you'll be putting the people in these homes at risk. Thank you very much.
Nicole?
Hello, good afternoon. I've lived in Somerville since about like 5th grade. I actually went to Span Elementary, so I've been here a really long time. And I'm a nurse at Roper St. Francis. So we do encounter a lot of homeless people, and I don't think that's a big deal that they're homeless. I agree with the woman who spoke earlier. I believe it's about the location. She mentioned that there are no sidewalks and there's also no public transportation in Somerville. So exactly how do they plan to get to and from these jobs from the homeless shelter? That's like a big concern. Also, there are no sidewalks down Miles Jamison. It's a really long road. It's really dark. It's not safe for anyone to walk, which is why a lot of those kids who live on Miles Jamison don't walk to the elementary school that's right down the street. It's not feasible to walk down. Now, maybe if they do build sidewalks or things of that nature, then it might be a more prime location to build it. But I have noticed that they already have set aside a location already down Matson Road and they live in the back. So maybe if it's over there, it's something that they're already a little bit more comfortable with. It's something that they're already a little bit more accustomed to. And also I heard him mention earlier that, and I think it was his proposal 3 or 2, that they could extend the existing homeless shelter already. That's somewhere that they're already comfortable with. That's a location that they're already primed to living to. So I think that would be a more feasible option for them as well, instead of picking them up, relocating them, because it's hard to relocate in general. It might be something that their residents that already live there might be something a little bit more comfortable with as well, because moving is hard already.
Justin Lewis, read an agenda item.
Hello, how y'all doing? All right, so I'm from Somerville. I'm from New York too, but I've been in Somerville my whole life. And being from New York too, I've seen a lot. And the homeless community is major, just like in big cities, Los Angeles and things like that. You have those, they have a whole lot of homeless shelters, and you find it very good that they're there because there's so much people and not everyone's living the best life they can live. So with that being said, is being from Somerville all these years and coming back, I moved to Columbia in 2013 when I got married to my wife, but I came back here and God was the one who led me to DCCO. Now, I was so shocked at the fact that DCCO was here because I never knew that there was a homeless shelter in Somerville. I know I could travel all the way to downtown Charleston or something like that to find, or in the Charleston area to find these things, but to know that it was in the town of Somerville, that gave a lot to my spirit, and I wanted to help more. Got the job, didn't even think I would get it. Honestly didn't think I fit the attire, and I was hired, and it brought a whole new magnifying shine to my life and the guys I met. I was at DCCO Home of Hope at the men's shelter, and I met a whole lot of men. We prayed together, we spoke together. They told me their real life. But one thing I noticed is that it was no judging. One thing about it is a foundation off of Christianity. So that brings me to the word of unconditional. That's what God wants us to have, is unconditional love. It's not up for us to decide how things go. A lot of these people in these communities that are homeless, they are homeless, but we can't get that confused with criminals. We can't get that confused with other things besides the fact that they have no place to stay. And we know our God says that he always supply a roof over our head, and to have a shelter here to supply that roof over their head of the ones that no one is thinking about, no one is caring about, having a warming shelter that they can go to and just to stay warm, that is the unconditional part about it. We can put a lot of conditions on things, and that takes out the magic, the miracleness of what God is doing. I agree with everything they say from DCCO because I'm part of DCCO. So, and I understand the communities and you're worried and things like that, and you should be. But Tent City is all around our community, if you know it. And Tent City has not been put up by a group or a committee. Tent City is what the homeless people do to come together, and they have their own community. So basically what I'm saying is, by not allowing the annex does not mean it's going to stop anything that goes on in this world, period. So I just want to kind of leave it there at that for me, but we just can remember unconditional love, because that's what it's truly about. That's why we should keep this homeless shelter running, and it should keep going for years, and we're going to help anybody that needs it. If it leaves Somerville, a major part of Somerville will leave. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that's all I have for public comment for agenda items.
That's it.
Next for petitions. Petition by Mad Dog Development LLC to annex Dorchester County TMS number 15200000051, 3.83 acres located off of Flood Airs Road, currently zoned MUC Mixed Use Community District in Dorchester County, and will be zoned UCMX Urban Corridor Mixed Use upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits. This is in Council District 5. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on December 19th, 2022. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation for approval at their meeting on February 6, 2023.
Have a motion on this petition?
Move we approve. Second.
Yeah, I got a motion that we approve this petition and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, this is my district. And I've seen what they're proposing on building here. I understand that we're just approving the zoning right now and all, and I understand that, but I do have some concerns. I really don't know what this part of the street is going to look like when it's the Parkway extension, when it's completed. I'm concerned there's only one entrance, one exit. Concerned with some of the parking for the commercial area versus the people that are going to live here. And I'm concerned about turn lanes. Are there going to be turn lanes for this part of the street? I'm just reluctant to bring any other apartments, homes into the town because of the things that we need, police and fire, et cetera. And I don't see the real plan for the rest of this street yet.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would point out, first of all, that I think at a previous committee meeting back in January, Chairman Jenkins allowed me to speak, even though I wasn't a member of the committee, and I appreciate that. And I expressed concern that at that point, the fiscal impact statement for or projections for this project were really bad for the town. At that point, with this development with less commercial and the same residential was projected to generate about $5 million for the town over 20 years, but we were projecting we would spend $8 million servicing it for a $3 million loss. And I pointed that out. So I feel like I have to at least commend the developers for coming back with a revised plan that is essentially break even. And it may be a little bit more than that. There's a whole lot more commercial activity, commercial designation in this revised plan for this district. So I appreciate that. I'm still not sold, and for a couple of reasons, and I don't know there's anything that the developer can do about it. First and foremost, first it's this is outside of our planning area. We have annexed outside of our planning area before, and sometimes I've opposed it, sometimes I've supported it, but it's a bad habit to get into. When Dr. Roof from the NAACP kind of gently chided us perhaps for the rather strange boundaries that we have in the town. I mean, the reason for those boundaries is this: we're not proactive. We don't adhere to plans, we react. And we've annexed things over the years that we were just simply reacting to. And that's not these folks' fault, but that's the reality. The other thing that bugs me a bit is I think they may say otherwise, but I think if we're all being honest, you wouldn't put all this commercial activity or the 300 and something apartments here if it wasn't for the final phase of the Berlin Myers Parkway. I mean, who would have thought that, this is, we're annexing in Slansville or Sweatsville, depending on what you called it growing up. It's the Parkway extension that makes this developable to this extent. One of the more consistent critiques or criticisms of the people that oppose the Parkway extension was, well, if you build a parkway, it's just going to open up undevelopable areas for development. And we all said, no, that's not, we're not going to have a bunch of ingress and egress. And this is at the end of the extension. But this development is here, I believe, because of the Berlin Myers Parkway. And we told a lot of people that had concerns about the parkway that this wasn't encouraging development. So those would be my two primary reasons that at this point I'm just not willing to support this annexation request. I'm presuming you always wonder why people come to annex. We found out, we already knew, but everyone found out tonight why the homeless shelter, the DCCO, wanted to annex. They need to ask us for an annexation to tap into water and sewer. We can say no, they get water and sewer and they can build, but that's why they requested the annexation. It's the primary reason. I don't know exactly why they request for annexation, why they want to pay an extra layer of taxes, but I presume it's because Dorchester County wouldn't approve something this dense. So for those reasons, I'm voting no.
Mr. Mayor, if I could make a couple comments. I certainly understand the perspective of Councilman McIntosh and Gardner Schmidt. However, when we have this development that, as you stated, would happen anyway, and we have zero influence on how it looks and the quality of it, how it's kept up, we're still going to have these folks living in our community. I think Somerville deserves to have quality products that follow our guidelines. And if it's going to happen anyway, I think it could diminish the property value and the essence of our town if it's not done the right way. And that's why I'm in favor of it.
Just for clarification, the homeless shelter is going to happen anyway because they own it, their vested rights. Now they get water and sewer because they requested annexation. I have no idea, I don't think any of us have any idea whether the county would approve a development of this sort on this property. Perhaps they would. I suspect that they wouldn't, which is why we have the annexation request.
Mr. Mayor, I think there are conflicting views on this, and I think for good conflicting reasons as well. One of the things that we have talked about, and I'm not whether or not this can be built in the county, I'm not sure, but is to try to provide housing for a population that doesn't densify downtown Somerville. And to me, this is an effort to have housing that I think is going to be more affordable than being downtown Somerville and gives us an opportunity to have population without further crowding what is a main street out of sight and stuff like that. So I'm in favor of what they're asking.
What did our planning committee, did they bring this to council with approval?
Yes.
Okay, that's 3 members of council. Somebody change their mind?
It's before council because the planning commission recommended it for approval. They sent it to our planning committee, who also recommended it go to full council for approval. But there are only 3 people on the planning committee.
I understand. Who are they?
And Bob.
Okay, so the 3 members are here.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 3 voters.
I don't know.
They voted on it. You know, that's why I'm asking this. We got a procedure we go through here. You know, we're supposed to. All right, I'm calling for the question.
Well, let me say something here. Good point. You mentioned affordable housing. Thank you, Terry.
Microphone, please, Aaron.
One of the things that we face in the town of Somerville is sort of like we tend to overbuild residential, which doesn't pay for itself. And it's been stretching our finances. One point that Councilman McIntosh made that I listened to, this is a UC mix, urban corridor mixed use, which means there's a mixture of business and residential, right? And so I think the first time that they appeared or brought this up, it was about to the planning commission about, they went back and looked at it and added more commercial properties, which would bring in more revenue to the town, which is a good thing. That's something we always look at when we have these type of mixed developments. We try to encourage them. We need more commercial. So, does anybody have a feel in the planning department as to the mix, how much of it is commercial and how much of it is residential? Is that
I'm going to take a stab, Mr. Brown, as well as I remember, and I'll ask Ms. Shula if she does. They moved from something like 9,000 square feet of commercial to something like 27,000 square feet of commercial. So they actually tripled the amount upon our request.
All in favor of supporting this petition, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
How many is that, 4? Those opposed? Nay, the ayes carry.
Nay.
Could be all night voting on something we already voted for. All right, B,
Petition by Ayako and Terry W. Richburg to annex Dorchester County TMS number 152-0102-007, 13.24 acres located at 116 Flood Airs Road, currently zoned R1, single family residential in Dorchester County, and will be zoned UCMX, urban corridor mixed use upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits. This would also be in Council District 5. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on December 19th, 2022. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation for approval at their meeting on February 6, 2023.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve this annexation, that this is part of the above property as well.
Second.
motion made second. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would just say we probably should have taken A and B up together. A was only 3 acres that I think has always been commercial. B is 13 acres. Just to add on to what Councilman Jenkins was saying, they, between these two parcels together, the new proposal does triple the amount of commercial from 9,000 to 27,000. The number of residences stays the same at 350, 360 apartments. 316, thank you. So, you know, for the same reasons I gave before, I'm voting no to this. And I would point out that at the previous, not this month, but the January planning committee meeting, and Mr. Brown asked the developer or representatives of the developer if this was workforce housing, if this was designed at all to be affordable, and the response was no.
I think the representative from the developer wants to speak.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm here on behalf of the developer, and if I may address council and address some of the questions that have come up. If not, that's fine, but there's been some inaccuracies stated on it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
That's not what we do.
Nicole Scott from Nexon Pruitt, representing the developer. There has been no denial by the county. That's not the reason that the developer seeking to annex into the town. In addition, the developer doesn't intend to get the denial so that they can then turn around and develop in the county and get the water. So they want to be in the town. They very much want to be in the town. To your point, Mr. Jenkins, after the original Planning and Development Committee meeting, there were a number of requests that were made. And we went back and looked at those. And as you pointed out, increased the commercial. We also, as I had stated at that committee meeting, during the meeting, we had noticed that we had an error in the fiscal impact statement, which was what resulted in such a discrepancy. We since gone back and had the former economic development director for the town do our fiscal impact analysis. And that's how we've come up with where it's now a positive. And I will grant you, it's not a large positive, but it's better than break even. So as to the affordable housing, all of, that's really, I'm a client not against it, right? We're here to determine whether or not the project can even go forward. And
generally at this point, usually in the planning process, we're not talking about site plans and we're not talking about all those sorts of things. So we understand that there are other issues that may come up. We understand that there may be concerns about traffic. We've had everything reviewed by the DOT. We're okay with the DOT, but this is just the first step in a very long process before we actually get any sort of plat approval, site plan approval, or building permit. So I would just ask that, I think this is appropriate. I do believe it would be developable in the county, and that will be the alternative if we don't get approval here. And then, as mentioned earlier, I think Mr. Jackson, the town will lose control at that point. May have been Mr. Touchberry, I'm sorry. Yeah, but I'm here if you guys have any questions.
Can I ask you a question
Yes, sir.
on the residential single family homes? What were they market for? What would they sell for?
I don't have that information. I'm sorry.
Over 300,000, 350,000?
Anything that I would tell you right now would be something that I just made up out of the air. I have no idea. I don't know what the market is. I'm a lawyer, not a real estate agent.
Well, when I mention affordable housing, I think of something that people can afford. So, but I appreciate, I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying.
And what I guess my point is I don't know that the client has ruled out the possibility of discussing affordable housing. I believe that discussion may be premature at this step of the zoning process.
I'm not picking on you, but most of what's being built right now is 350,000 plus. So it's difficult for the local yokels, those that's been here, to compete with those that come here.
I understand. I've lived in the area for 20 years. I've seen the prices go up across the area. I understand. I am a big proponent of affordable housing. It's just, I'm not the decision maker, unfortunately. And they were not able to get here tonight. So you're kind of stuck with me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could, I appreciate you coming and speaking. You said a few things that addressed my issue also. I know I'm going to be outvoted here, but I would hope that when you come back with the developed plan, that it would be such that the layout would be better for the commercial area and the residents, the parking would be better, et cetera. And that's one of the things that I'm looking for.
If I may, ma'am, I believe they would welcome a meeting with each bidder.
And if I may just clarify, the comments about tapping into water and sewer had nothing to do with this development. We're talking about the homeless shelter, which is serviced by the Commission of Public Works. I don't believe this is in the Commission of Public Works service area. This has nothing to do with water or sewer. Yes, this property is developable in the county. Obviously, it's a total of about 16 acres. It's zoned R1 single family residential in the county. So yes, they can build 30, 40, 50 or more single family houses in the county right now. But to do something like this in what has traditionally been a rural area, kind of across the street from what I knew growing up as the Lots place, but now most people call it Bud's Barn. They're going to have, if they stay in the county, they're going to have to get a dramatic rezoning from R1, a single family residential, to build anywhere near 316 apartments and 27,000 feet of commercial. So I think my suspicion is they're trying with us first.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by raising the right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise.
Okay.
Nay.
Ayes carry. Okay.
Petition by Dorchester County Community Outreach to annex TMS number 14614000009, located on Jameson Road and totaling approximately 3.45 acres. Currently zoned CG General Commercial in Dorchester County and will be zoned GB General Business upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal. This would be in Council District 3. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on January 23rd, 2023. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with no recommendation at their meeting on February 6, 2023.
To start,
If I could make maybe a couple of comments on this. This is my comments, obviously, but I've talked to several council members, and I think at least some of this will reflect some of the views of all of us. First, I think to know exactly where this project stands, if we do nothing, the project will be built. It will be built in the county. If we bring it into town, the same restrictions, if building a fence, they're actually building the fence further away. They're going by county guidelines, which is 30 feet versus ours, which is 25 with a fence setback. I want to do what y'all want us to do. And the question that I think, as I've talked to a good many of you, is, or my question to you is, this is obviously not a financial good decision for the town of Somerville. Each person will have their opportunity to decide whether or not it's the right thing for the town of Somerville. But my question really to y'all is, who do you want to make a call to if there is a problem? If that's the county, I'm a happy camper. If that's the town, I'm a happy camper. And so I think that for me, that was what I was trying to get at, is where do y'all, in something that the majority of you do not care for, and I shouldn't say you don't care for it, you don't care for the location. But given the fact that the location is not changeable now, what would you like this council to do for the communities that are living out there that give you the greatest comfort?
Yeah, I agree. My district does encumber a lot of the bridges in that area and all. I have written the HOA to try to have a meeting with you to talk about what is and what you want. Because as Terry said, the way I vote is going to be for what y'all want. And personally, I believe there is merit in the cost of the town getting it, because we can be stricter. We can maybe work on the lighting and things like that, some safety issues. And when you call the county, you're almost in Charleston County. You can throw a baseball. So how long is the response time going to be? So I would like to postpone this till I can have a meeting with the citizens and find out what you want to do. Because really, for me right now, I've got a small representation of the communities here now. I had too many emails to answer. I did read yours because I know the percentages. So it was just impossible to answer all of them. So if y'all can get in touch with your HOAs and let's get a meeting and discuss it. But as Terry said, it's up to you. Do you want to call Somerville or do you want to wait on the county? And by rights, they have the right to build. If the county refuses this, that's called a takings. Because they're changing the identity of the property. and they will sue and they will win. So the county really doesn't have a big choice. I make a motion that we delay this for 30 days so I can talk to the citizens of the area.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion on the floor. We delay it for 30 days and a second. Any other discussion on it?
Well, I do just want to chime in real quick. I really appreciated the conversation with the HOA president at the end of our committee meetings. I know the nature of your community's heart. You care, just like DCCO, for those underserved citizens who are served by them. And I understand that DCCO is a great benefit for our community and our county as a whole. So I thank each of you for having compassion in each of the discussions that I've had with each of you. And I just hope that, per Mr. Jenkins, that we find the outcome that serves our citizens the best, and in our town the best. And I like the postponement to get us closer to that mark. So thank you all.
To postpone it till.
I'd like to say this, I got a good many calls on this myself and emails. And what I suggested to the calls I got is because most of them were against it. I said, if you don't want this thing in your backyard, you need to fill the council chambers up tonight and and come at 5:30 and have your name put on the list where you can speak. Now, what I heard tonight was not what I thought I would hear. I heard just as many people in favor of it as I just heard against it. So it's not what I heard on my telephone or what I heard in my emails. So I'm glad we're not going to vote tonight because it's not what I heard in the last week. So I'm glad we're putting it off. But if y'all don't want this thing, what council's asking us to do tonight is to put it off 30 days where you better let us know what you want to do. I feel like what Mr. Jenkins said, you know, if it was me living out there, I would want it in town. Because I know the service you'll get from the town is going to be better than the county, and I'm not saying that in a negative way. I just know what kind of service we can provide you out there. But anyway, you got 30 days to let us know. You can let us know by letting our clerk know, letting our administrator know, or letting any of the 7 us know. And we'll try to do the right thing. That's why he's made this motion to where we can try to do the best thing for y'all. And so anyway, we got a motion on the floor in a second, right?
Yep.
Okay, anybody else got any discussion? All right, all in favor of this, signify by raising right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll bring it up again at the next council meeting.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to amend chapter 8, article 2, section 8-42A and section 8-43 to provide for an interest-free grace period for non-payment of business license taxes and to allow the license official to provide notice by electronic mail.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
First reading of an ordinance, second and final reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS number 13714050013 at 800 South Main Street, approximately 0.47 acres and owned by John Thomas Wayne Beasley from GR2 General Residential 2 units per acre to NMX Neighborhood Mixed Use, the Zig Council District 3, with a condition and requirement that any deed of conveyance contain a restriction the property shall not be subdivided.
I'll make a motion we approve that.
Second.
Motion made and seconded on B. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
Nay.
Will you vote nay on that?
Nay.
I'm taking. Oh, one nay, okay.
I'm gonna take the bio.
First reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS number 13709010057 located on Central Avenue, approximately 2.98 acres and owned by 725 Central LLC from PUD Planned Development District to NB Neighborhood Business in Council District 1. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on January 23rd, 2023. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation for approval at their meeting on February 6, 2023.
Move we approve?
Second.
Motion made, second. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to have Ms. Schuler answered. I just kind of present what's going on here to council. I know it came up at the last committee meeting, but some of us were not there, don't serve on the committee. I know that this was zone PUD because it was part of a PUD. It was part of a larger tract where this townhomes are currently situated. And I know this has come before us before. Is this the same, Ms. Schuler, is this the same zoning proposal or is it a different one? Can you just tell us the differences?
Yes, sir. The previous zoning proposal was to rezone this area to MFR, multifamily residential, which they wanted to build additional townhomes. This request is to rezone it to NB, neighborhood business. Which is what the properties in front of it are. As you can see, it has very little frontage. And that was one of the major concerns with the rezoning to the townhomes was that the traffic issue with adding additional residences back there. And so the proposal that the gentleman who has this property under contract is he would like to build a small office for his contractor. He's a contractor. He'd like to build a small office for himself and then have self-storage behind it. So it would be a very, very little traffic generation. So it kind of seemed to be one of the few uses that would work for this site because, like I said, with the interesting layout where it has very little frontage, kind of makes it a difficult property to develop.
Thank you.
Ms. Schuler, just one more, sorry, I missed the first part. You may have already addressed this. My understanding is that these are not buildings for storage, just land for storage. Is that correct?
I mean, he may eventually do some buildings, but primarily he would like to be able to store
Boats, trailers,
vehicles,
that type.
trailers,
Okay.
boats. And to do that, he would have to do a screen fence all the way around the property.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
We got a motion on that?
Okay, all right.
And then a second. Okay. No further discussion. All right, all in favor, signify by raising right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carried.
First reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS number 13612041112 at 629 Parkwood Drive, approximately 0.38 acres and owned by James C. and Tina J. Horn from GR5 General Residential, 5 units per acre to NB Neighborhood Business. This is in Council District 1. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on January 23rd, 2023. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation for approval at their meeting on February 6, 2023.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Here none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carried.
First reading of an ordinance to approve the renewal of the electric and gas franchise agreement with Dominion Energy of South Carolina.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would have a motion to amend the the franchise agreement to where where it references a 5% franchise fee to strike 5 and replace 3.
Yeah. I know nobody's made a second.
It's supposed to be 3.
Where's the 5, Bill?
5 is the maximum allowed.
Oh, and that's what we're recommending, 5.
Well, it's 5 right now.
It's 5 right now. And you want to cut it back to 3?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. In 2012, I believe, we increased franchise fees from 3% to 5%, and I'm gonna have the same motion to amend item D as well, that we return our franchise fees paid by consumers in our town from 5% to 3%. Essentially, I know you're not supposed to call it a tax, you're supposed to call it a fee, but essentially I'm proposing a tax cut.
You're saying at that time, council raised it to 5, but then they agreed to put it back at 3.
That's just my motion, is to put it back to 3. It was I believe, a 5-2 or a 4-3 vote back in 2012 to increase the franchise fees. So for the last decade, our citizens have been paying 5% of their utility bills to us, and this would return it back to 3%, which is what it was in 2010, 2011.
Second that amendment.
Mr. Mayor, that might mention something just occurred to me. We issued bonds based on that 5%, as I recall. And before we act on this, since this is just first reading, I'd like to get a bond council opinion that is not to put us in jeopardy of that bond.
Well, there's a motion and a second, but I would make a motion then that we postpone this matter until the March meeting.
Okay, well, wait just a minute. I want to ask Lisa something. Have we done any budgeting? Knowing that we've got that 5% coming in rather than 3%?
Yes, sir. For this year, current year's budget, we plan for 5%. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, just a question. Is there any time constraint associated with this where we would want to proceed with first reading and then have second reading adjusted as deemed necessary for discussion, or we're fine?
We're okay.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Motion and second. Okay. So what did you say last, Bill?
I moved and Mr. Brown seconded that we postpone this until the March meeting.
Okay. Okay, Bill's motion is we postpone it to the March meeting. Darren seconded that. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. Vote aye.
Aye.
Okay, GW, that gives you a chance enough to check on. Okay.
First reading of an ordinance to approve the renewal of the electric franchise agreement with Berkeley Electric Cooperative.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move that we also postpone first reading of this ordinance until the March meeting.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded on this. Any discussion? All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise.
First reading of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of a not exceeding $15 million waterworks and sewer system revenue bond, series 2023 of the town of Somerville, South Carolina, for the Somerville Commissioners of Public Works.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move first reading of the ordinance.
Second.
The motion made that we, motion made and seconded, we do this bond for CPW. Any discussion on that?
Mr. Mayor, I guess I'm in favor of it, but the question I want to make sure of is we're talking about bonds, and I know this is not our bond, but CPW's bond. does what we just did on C and D have any impact on this?
Don't see how it could.
Only way I'll know is ask.
What was your question, Terry?
I wanted to know if changing, potentially changing the amount of franchise fee that we charge. Mr. Parker wants to check, does that affect our bond rating and other things in other places?
And we do not, to be clear, we do not charge a franchise fee to the Somerville Commissioners of Public Works. I know there was some talk of that.
It's a revenue bond, it's sort of screened down.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure. I'm good.
Every CPW throughout the state, so.
Okay, any other discussion on that? All in favor of this signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
Approval of CDBG program implementation policies and procedures.
I'll make a motion. We approve this.
I'll second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes carry.
Authorization to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Somerville Parks Foundation nonprofit organization.
I'll make a motion. We approve that.
And I will second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
Authorize the town administrator to enter into a cooperative intergovernmental agreement between the town of Somerville and Dorchester County for the construction and funding of the Maple Street extension.
I would move authorization.
I'll second.
A motion made and seconded.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to be on the record for recusing myself of voting here.
Okay, motion made and seconded on authorizing with the administrator to deal with the county on that. All in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same, ayes carry.
Discussion on redistricting.
Mr. Mayor, first off, I'd like to thank Mr. Roof for what he did. I haven't had enough chance to really look at it and understand it because I'm having difficulty picking out where the streets are on the map. So I'd like to look at it. But I think it would be prudent if we asked the Department of Revenue and Fiscal Affairs to also provide a rendering to us. That would give us two different things to look at and maybe give us some ideas because we have to. I don't know if that needs to be a motion or whether we just need to ask the clerk to do that.
There would need to be a motion and a vote of council.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We get Miss Beth to do that for us. All in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry. Okay,
Linda Wetzel.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
I live at 108 Atlantic Street. Like the man said, who do you call? When we had that ice storm or when everything was all iced over in January, I got a bill for over $300, $250 some dollars and gas alone. And I called Dominion Energy. I was on hold for almost an hour. I was supposed to be, somebody was supposed to call me. They never did. I'm still waiting on that phone call. I called my representatives. They said that they were gonna try to find a way to get somebody to call me, to check on me. My bill is usually between $70 and $150. Now it's over $300 for that one weekend that we had all that ice. We need representation in Somerville of an office so we can go have our water, our light bill paid, and nobody listens to you. How many more $300 bills do I have to get if something's wrong with it? Gas usage, $251 for 1 month, a 2-bedroom house. And I want to know something else. At night, 8 o'clock at night, the business behind me, loud music up to over 8 o'clock at night. Saturday morning, I was coming in my house, driving through in my backyard. A man urinating behind the house. There's a fence there, but you can see him zipping up his pants. I've called the police, county and city. Nobody is doing anything. In the morning, so much dust from what they're doing over at RDH all over my car. How much damaging of the dust from that company do I have to endure? That's right behind my house, and nobody has done anything about it. DHEC says they have a right to operate. I have a right to live. I have a right to sleep in my bed without having dust all over inside my house. Coming through the air conditioners every time I open the door. And in the morning when I have to crank my car up, the windshields are so muddy. The side window, I can't even see through it because of all the dust that has settled from that company back there. Somebody's got it. I'm tired of calling the police to telling them the noise back there. I'm tired of calling the police, watching a man or woman urinate behind my house. I live in the city. That's the county, and part of it is the city. Somebody's got to do something.
Mr. Mayor, I do not have any more public comments.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion, we go into executive session, discuss legal matters, receiving legal advice on potential property acquisition on East Carolina Avenue, and receive legal advice on potential property acquisition in Nexton.
Second. Motion made and seconded. We go into executive session on legal matters. All in favor of this signify by raising the right hand, voting aye. Aye. Opposed likewise.